Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, West Coast Weather Watch. Today is January 19th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. You can see BC, Washington, Oregon, California here. System continuing to move down across the Intermountain West here, bringing some snowfall across the Sierra Nevada. This should be wrapping up later on today through this early afternoon. You can see another system out here across Pacific Ocean is going to move over the top of this ridge into the Pacific Northwest here, bring some upper elevation snowfall, some valley rain here, and we'll take a look at that. There's still some model disagreement in what's going to go on with this system here. I'll show you what I mean here in a moment. And we're going to take a detailed look at the extended forecast coming up here. That cold signal still looming here towards the end of the month into early February. We'll take a nice close look at that coming up here and see what's going on with the pattern across the northern hemisphere here. Now taking a look at this is the European hot off the presses 12Z. Put this into motion here. You can see the next system here across the Gulf of Alaska. A little bit of interesting development on the southern side of this lobe here coming into the Pacific Northwest. European wants to bring quite a little bit of a punch here into the region, wind-wise anyway, and some nice snows across the Cascades of Washington down towards Oregon and BC as well. We'll take a look at that here coming up in a moment because not all models agree with that wind here on the south side of this lobe. Now, what do I mean by that? Check this out. Put this into motion. This is sea level pressure. Here comes that system right here, and watch this development on the south side of this area of cold air in the upper atmosphere here, showing a very tight pressure gradient here. You're looking at 4, 8, 12, 16 millibars right here from the central Washington coast down towards the northwest Oregon coast. This would pack quite a punch, even across some of the Puget Sound here. And yeah, so we got to watch this closely here. The European's been showing it the last couple runs, but watch this. You'll see this tightly wound little low here just kind of driving in like a drill bit here into the Washington coastline, up the Puget Sound there as well. But the other models are not showing it, and I'll show you what I mean now here. Here's the NAM, hot off the presses here, 12Z. You can just see this kind of general low pressure and just troughing move across British Columbia. You do not see that development with the surface low here down across Washington. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here on and through tomorrow. I'll be watching model run by run. At least we have a couple days to look at this. Tomorrow will be very telling to see if the European continues to show that surface low developing there. This is the high resolution Canadian model, also does not show that system. You can kind of see the system going through, but no surface development here with the strong low, as you can see. But nice mountain snows and some valley rains. You can see the snowfall extending all the way down towards Northern California here, but just clipping the area down through Nevada. But some nice snowfalls coming for the higher terrain of Idaho, Montana, BC, Washington, Oregon, as we go on in through later this weekend. Now taking a look here, this is the European hot off the presses as well. This is 24-hour running snowfall total. You can see with the approach of that system here, nice amounts for BC here. Look at the Washington Cascades, some bullseye there near Mount Rainier with that system moving in there as well. And you can see some decent snowfall amounts, probably up over 6, 7, 8 inches in some of the Oregon Cascades, northeast Oregon as well, as that system finally moves out. Then we look towards early next week and just kind of we're going to get skirted by a weak system that moves over the top of that ridge. Not a big deal there. Now taking a look here, day 1 to 3 overall winter storm impacts. I think this is going to get upgraded here probably as we go on in through tomorrow. Probably at least some minor impacts, especially across the Washington Cascades and the passes, Snoqualmie, Stevens, White Pass, for example, there. And some of the higher terrain, maybe across Oregon, Idaho as well. Probably going to get some more of this minor impact coverage here across Pacific Northwest. This is for avalanche. Check this out. Avalanche danger here. You can see the moderate, considerable danger here across some of California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Eastern Oregon, Montana as well. So heads up, avalanche.org. You can click on these individual locations here and get all kinds of different information, including snow levels here if you want to go out in the backcountry across anywhere here on the West Coast. Now, taking a look at the extended forecast here. This is the European as of last night. This is 500 millibars, 18,000 feet. There goes that system that it's been talking about this weekend, develops that strong surface low. And you can see some ridging developing out here off the west coast of North America. Then you notice it retrogrades a bit here, and we start to get attacked from these polar lobes here, coming back down on the backside of this ridge into the Pacific Northwest. And you can see multiple rounds here as we go on in through the end of January into early February here. That's the European here. Now, GFS, this is hot off the presses here, 12Z. Let's see what it shows. You can see as we go on into the 200 plus hour period, that ridge retrogrades as well, and these polar lobes start swinging down wildly out of the north here. This would be some wild action here, folks, here across Pacific Northwest and all the way down towards California, potentially Southwest USA. I mean, this is a pretty dynamic looking setup here coming on to the future. It's just still a ways out there, so we're just kind of playing the wait and see game right now. We're trying to stay away from calling for any certain details at this point because you never know the trajectory of these polar lobes, how far they're going to come off the coastline here. Maybe they're going to stay a little bit further off to the east. That's what we're watching as we go. Now, this is the Canadian model here as well. This is the ensemble mean. Put this into motion here, and you're going to see as we go past 200 hours, the retrograde of the ridge here, and you can see, again, that cold signal here. Since this is the ensemble mean here, this shows kind of a smoothed out process here at 18,000 feet, just kind of showing the general trough and ridge position, because this is an average of several different runs here, so it's going to look more smooth like that, but it clearly has a cold signal as we go on in through later January, early February as well. Now, this is looking at the northern hemisphere. Check out Russia, just brutally cold, down towards -70 Fahrenheit, -56 Celsius here. And you can see across North BC, for example, Canada, it's not quite as cold as you can see here. That cold air is bottled up here and across some of the northern hemisphere, Greenland, as you can see there as well. If I put this into motion, you can see some of this cold air gets on the move out here all the way down through China, off the coast of Asia here, across the Western Pacific. So what's going to happen on through the extended here is it's going to cause some cyclogenesis here, and it's going to help develop this ridging here, and this cold air is going to start to move over the top of that ridge down into portions of Western Canada, Alaska, and the Yukon here. So we're going to start to pivot that cold air back our way here as we go through the extended forecast, or at least so the models say. Now, the same thing here. This is the thickness of the atmosphere basically from the surface to 18,000 feet. You can see that very cold air here over Russia. And put that into motion, you can kind of see that get into motion here off the Western Pacific. It's going to really bring some warm air out ahead of that. That's what's going to cause that ridging here, and it's going to allow for some polar air, some Arctic air to try to get down into the Pacific Northwest, or again, like the models say, but you can clearly see that pattern change come as we start to bring this ridging out here and the troughing over Northwest North America here. This is the European as of yesterday afternoon. This is another look at the Northern Hemisphere. This is 200 millibar jet stream, 39,000 feet on the right. This is surface pressure map here on the left. Put this into motion. Let's go out a little bit first. And check this out first. Let's back up a little bit. You can see that Arctic high over Russia, giving them the very cold temperatures. But if I go into motion here, you can see this spread out across Japan, China here. And that's what's actually going to help engage some of these low pressure systems out here, and it's going to really build this ridging. You can see it here with this mid-latitude cyclones out here over the Northwest Pacific here, driving this ridging that's going to allow for that cold air to try to come down here. And you'll see the kink in the jet stream here at 200 millibars here as it comes up, and you almost get this cross-polar flow going on just north of Alaska back down into BC here in the Pacific Northwest. Some of these systems can move all the way down into California and the southwest portion of the USA as well. But the big takeaway is the big ridging coming out here because of the development of some of the cyclones out here across the Northwest Pacific. And then it's going to, in turn, allow this cold air to come down over Northwest North America, shown here. As you can see, some of these low pressure systems well off into the extended here. Just take this stuff with a grain of salt right now, but you can kind of see that developing there. Now taking a look here, Seattle, Tacoma. This is the European weeklies. This is purely fantasy right now, but it's just kind of showing you the signal for some snowfall as we go on into early February here. This is just purely fun right now. We're just kind of looking out into the future. Again, the European weeklies, but of course, we'll forecast this far out. You have to take with a grain of salt, purely for fantasy at this point. You can see now this is the ensemble mean here. And the ensemble members, and then there's a control run here in blue, so you can see that it is looking like it's calling for some snow here if that pattern change does come into early February here, and you can see some of these individual ensembles have some bigger amounts, but you'll notice some of them still have no snow at all. But you can see the mean is up over 2, approaching 3 inches here as we go on in through early February. Purely fantasy right now, but just kind of showing you the pattern change is showing up in the ensemble runs on the European. This is Vancouver International, similar similar thing here, but look at the mean. It's up over 8 to 10 inches here. So this pattern, is favorable for snowfall if we can get it to come around here. And the model's been pointing at it, for a few days now. This is for Spokane. Similar thing here. You can see that pattern change showing up in the ensemble members there. Even Portland down into Oregon here, getting in on the action as well. There's potential for snowfall with this kind of setup here coming in the future as well for Portland. And just to throw a bone out there and just try to just showing you some of the variability in some of the ensembles. This is San Francisco Airport. One of them even has getting over 2 inches here for San Francisco, well off into the extended. But as you can see, the vast majority of them have no snowfall. It takes a real extreme act to get lowland snowfall down into the Bay Area there in California. Just thought I'd show that for entertainment purposes only. And Los Angeles, you can see here, not even a snowflake here off through the extended. Here's Crater Lake. You can see the mean and the control here with the pattern change coming up later on into January there as well. This would be Lake Tahoe, potential for some more snowfall off into the extended, well down into California there. Of course, the higher terrain shown there. Now, this is a Canadian model here, the Pacific North American Oscillation, as we go into later January, still showing us going down into negative territory here, which brings out troughing over the west coast of North America. Europeans showing it as well. Some pretty extremely negative values showing up in the control here as you go on in through early February there. This was last night's run. This is the monthly temperature just brought out today as well. You can see for January, actually, this is valid for February. This was brought out in January 19th here. You can see the below average signal across mainly the Bay Area north, across Pacific Northwest. This would include BC and areas of Canada as well. This is the precipitation outlook for February also. So we may be in for another chilly February here across the West Coast. Now, this is looking at Mountain Pass snowfall here. So this is on in through Saturday. Light mountain snow, winter driving conditions, breezy winds at 30 miles per hour. Snoqualmie, Stevens, and I-90 here. So you might get an upgrade in some of those winter weather. That outlook there may go minor or moderate. In fact, there'll probably be winter weather advisories issued here as we go on in through the weekend with that system rolling through here. This is for sneaker waves. This is Eureka, California down there. This is really a good idea. In fact, all the way down through southern Los Angeles, southern California there, all the way up the west coast towards Vancouver Island here. It's not a bad idea to keep that in mind for the sneaker wave activity going on, especially during the winter months. And this is showing the National Weather Service Los Angeles talking about that hazardous seas, minor coastal flooding through at least Friday showing up there. So heads up down there through Southern California for that. Now, check out California here. The last 23 days were the rainiest ever for San Francisco International Airport. Same thing for Oakland, California, and Stockton, California there. And I'm going to back up a little bit here so you can see the key at the bottom here. Look at that. This area is with purple here, and the very light purple there are over 30 inches water equivalent precipitation values. Look at this Honeydew, California, 47 inches of rain since December 26th. That is amazing. That's more than Seattle gets in an entire year there. So you can see these depressive totals here, and you can see California just got really drenched. Some of the areas all the way down to the hills above Santa Barbara, for example, were up over 30 inches during this time period. Coastal range here near San Jose, Santa Cruz, all the way up the Bay Area, Northern California, just north of Redding, the Sierra Nevada, where much of this fell as snowfall as well. So a lot of snowfall across the Sierra Nevada. And if you were out there driven through some of the past areas, you know the amount of snow that is built up here across the Sierra Nevada. So very intense atmospheric river for the last several weeks here impacting the state of California. Now, this is the freeze warning for California also here coming up. You can see some of the valley areas, some pretty chilly temperatures, of course, colder as you go into the higher terrain. So just a heads up for that out there. This is all the way through Friday morning. So, yeah, we got an interesting extended forecast coming up here, but don't sleep on this system rolling in here through this week. And I'm going to watch this one closely. It'll be interesting to see what the model runs show on in through tonight and tomorrow and see if like the NAM and the GFS, the Canadian, the European start to get on the same page. And, the European's usually pretty good, but I have a feeling it's the outlier right now. And I'm not expecting a very strong low pressure system, but that thing was packing a punch here on this morning's European run. So it's something to watch here. But by tomorrow, I have a feeling that the models will work it out and we'll come to some kind of agreement there. But anyway, yeah. The system, the stuff coming up here at the end of the month has a potential to affect all the way down into California, Southwest USA, BC, Washington, Oregon, really anywhere along the West Coast. It just depends on the track of this air as it comes down into the region here. You know, how much of this cold air will spill out over the Gulf of Alaska, or will it take a very favorable track here off the coast of BC and back into the Pacific Northwest for a classic Arctic outbreak? We just don't know those details just yet. So anyway, we'll just go ahead and do this tomorrow, and we'll be one day closer to that potential cold air at the end of the month there. But otherwise, we're just going to watch this system come in here. We'll kind of track that as it comes. So yeah, hope you guys are having a good day. Click like, subscribe, and we'll do this again tomorrow, and I'll talk to you guys then.